All right. Welcome to Woo Woo Wednesday. Interpretive dance optional. No candles necessary, but this is the monthly session when we go a few layers deeper than just the macros and the movement. So type a one in the chat if you're hearing me, because I had some issues on my last call where it wasn't audible or not very audible. Okay, we got some ones. Okay, good to hear, because I don't know how to troubleshoot it. I just did to completely shut it off. Okay, so I'll get right into it. If I can share my screen, and then hopefully we'll have some time for a lot of engaging questions at the end. Not blank stares, right? Yes, it's a good topic, but it's one that's a little tricky to navigate. So you should see the fat loss belief codes, 7 beliefs, quietly sabotaging your success, or you get to a certain point and then you regress to the mean. A lot of it has to do with this. Okay. So I frame it as you're succeeding at a goal you didn't know you set, but internally you have set. Okay. Because oftentimes people start plans, fitness plans, but other plans in life, and discipline gets you to a certain point, maybe week 6. And then those other 46 weeks, what runs those is what you believe internally about food, about your genetics, about stress, about who you are, about whether or not you're worth it, etc. So that's what we're trying to unpack today. So your body or your brain isn't broken. It's loyal to the old version of you, and it will pull you back like a magnet if you're not aware of it. So it starts with belief. So that's the stories you tell yourself. And then those stories impact your behavior. So what you do on autopilot, like you can force it, like white-knuckle it in this phase for a while. But if those beliefs are still based on an old story, your behaviors are going to change for the worse, of course. And then we talk about this a lot, but the identity, who you are becoming, is what's going to quietly keep the result eventually. Creating that 2.0 version of you who drinks their water, does their workouts without a whole lot of negotiation. That's what we're aiming for. So quickly summarizing 7 codes we'll get into. What you're not changing, you're choosing. I don't know who came up with that quote, but it's really, really effective. Belief drives behavior, not willpower, certainly not discipline. Those are all kind of secondary downstream from your beliefs. Your body normalizes dysfunction to keep you safe. That seems to, what does that make? It doesn't make sense. We'll get to that. Stop celebrating fit like it's a vacation, right? It's not temporary, it's permanent. Reactive versus responsive. Honestly, the problems never go away. You just get better. So the problems get smaller. Then you create bigger problems for yourself. We'll get that. And then what, if you guys remember Gavin, he kind of introduced this concept of be, do, have, not have, do, be. Okay. So we'll dive into each one of these individually. So first things first, what you're not changing, you're choosing. Okay. So if the nightly wine leads to cheese, leads to overeating, that's a decision that pays you something, and it pays you, like it feels like a reward or it's routine, but it ends up sabotaging you. So we need to name the payoff, and then the choice comes back to you. So can I get that reward that the wine's giving me from something else that's more conducive to my fitness goals? That's sort of the question to kind of ask yourself. So if you don't mind sharing, if you had some sort of habit that was keeping you stuck previously to joining, how did we help you change it, or how did you try to self-assess and change that yourself? So what was it, like nighttime snacking or a nightly nightcap that was led me to the pantry, and now I do this? I'd love to get a couple ideas from you guys if you have access to your keyboard. Like, what is that thing that you've actively changed that you used to choose automatically? And I'll share a couple examples, but let me get to the chat quick. So ice caps, yes, Danielle, that's a big one. Becomes routine because you get the caffeine fix and the sugar fix from it. Costs you what, $5? I used to buy those all the time when they were $2. Now it's double that and 300 plus calories. Yeah, deserving that glass of wine because I've been good all week. So kind of rationalizing. these choices. And there is a time and place, but if you know it's a trigger for doing a lot of the wrong things afterwards, it's better to swap it. Good stuff. For me, previously, it was like having this cheat day because I was good all week. And then it just opened the floor to like picking up these elaborate, like healthy carrot cake recipes and binging and just this binge purge approach that kept me stuck. That one day that went way over basically washed out the other 6 where I was pretty good. And that cycle continued for a long time until I found a better way, which is what I try to teach all of you, which is simply put, if you hit your calories and protein daily, you can have the treat. You don't have to forego the treats until Saturday and you just build this thing up to be this big snowball that obviously leads to overeating. Having a few potato chips, yeah, if you can manage the portions that way, more power to you. Some people have kryptonite foods they just can't simply break the seal on. And for me, that's like frozen yogurt, ice cream. It's like a big tub. They don't sell it in small portions. And if I have that in the freezer, it's gone in 3 days. So I simply don't buy it. All right. So bear that in mind. What you're not changing, you're choosing. There may be a time and place for all, but we want to get you better results. The treat definitely has to fall within the calories. That's the game. Otherwise, it's just going over for the sake of it. Belief drives behavior, not willpower. Okay, so if you always, or your perspective is, I always gain it back, that's going to steer you right back to making the wrong behaviors that end up, self-manifesting this thing. Okay, so we have to start fixing that story. No, I don't always gain it back. This new version of me does the right things, knows how to shift to maintenance, knows how to make this a permanent lifestyle change. It's like getting into a new story because the belief will drive better decisions. So it all starts with the why, but I would go even beyond the why, the belief behind it. This is the big one. Your body normalizes dysfunction to keep you safe. So this obviously goes well beyond like fitness, right? You grew up with a ton of turmoil in your home. So you almost seek it out in adulthood because your nervous system actually is more comfortable in that state of dysfunction. And this is not something I'm an expert on. It's sort of what I've learned from mentors along the way. But to keep it, specific to fitness, your body will fight for the familiar, even if that familiar is 40 pounds overweight with a bunch of visceral fat with a lot of risk to your long-term health. It still actually feels better there. It feels familiar. So we need to get to this new place, right? New set point for your body weight, certainly, but get there and then make it just your new normal. Like, this is who I am now. My nervous system feels more comfortable here. So that's hard because if you've been 40 pounds overweight for a long time, when you start to deviate too far from the mean, so to speak, things seem uncomfortable, right? You're making decisions that don't seem to align with that where your nervous system wants you to be. So not the easiest slide to explain, but the goal here is to rewire these patterns that keep you stuck. Okay. Because we make decisions that are consistent with who we believe we are. Like, I was the fat kid, the fat genes. My brothers had it easy. And the more I repeated those things to myself, the more I made the wrong choices that kept me there. When I started to identify as a fitness person who did the workouts, whether I felt like it or not, because this is who I am now, slowly but surely, that nervous system normalized into this new normal, where now if I deviate from the right choices for too long, it's like, whoa, what are you doing, man? This is not where we like to be anymore. That's the shift. Okay, so this is the key. Stop celebrating fit like it's a vacation. Everyone starts these diets with a temporary end date in mind. Like, that doesn't work. I'm going to do this keto diet for 2 months, lose all the weight, then I'll go back to what I always do. And sure as shite, we end up back where we started. Okay. So fit shouldn't feel like a special event. Doing the big 5 habits, this is just who I am now. I'm being consistent with the future version of myself I want to become. So fit is the baseline, not the highlight reel. Making sense? Type a yes in the chat. I know this can get a bit woo-woo, but that's what this session's all about. Excellent. Okay, good. Okay, this kind of cut off, but reactive versus responsive. So there's the trigger, and then we want this gap before we take action, because oftentimes we get triggered and we take action without really going through that mental, tug of war we need to go through. Okay, your boss stresses you out. Your first impulse is to go for a smoke if you're trying to quit smoking. If you're trying to reduce your sugar habit, how you respond to that emotional trigger is inhaling a donut from the lunchroom. We need this gap. Okay, the entire skill is stretching the space between the trigger and action. Abby has talked about this all the time, like having a 20-minute buffer. You really want to inhale that bag of chips. Okay, let's take a 20-minute pause here. 20-minute might be ambitious, but we odds are you filled that 20 minutes with something else. The trigger is no longer in place, like the emotional response is down-regulated. Now you can make a rational choice in the moment. Okay. We want to be responsive. All right. So that can come into play in all sorts of areas. But if you give yourself a little bit of grace, say, okay, what would the future version of me decide in this moment? Like the version you want to become, they might go for the 10-minute walk to deal with this emotional stress, not the sugar. This applies to life in general. We think we're going to have no more problems once we get there, wherever there is. They never go away. You just get better at solving them. You build up some calluses. You're just more resilient. I think that's the biggest word to take away from this slide is the more hard things you do, the more easier everything becomes. Because fat loss doesn't get easy. You get more capable. Okay? I always hear that, I'll start after the holidays. I got a tough week. I'll start after that. No, we need to build the system now that withstands all this stuff because odds are you'll have another summer. You'll have another vacation. So the win is not a life without no temptation. It's about stopping to wait for it to get easier because it won't be. You become someone where it does get a little bit easier over time because you build up these calluses. You get better at saying no to things. You become, again, that version of you who are chasing that new identity that doesn't have to white-knuckle it. Okay. Let me know if any questions are coming up for you here. Love to help as we go through, but just want to get the slides in here. So last but not least, we talked about be, do, have. Okay. You can't have the result before you become that person who is deserving of the result. So don't wait for the scale to tell you you're fit. Become the person today. Like I call it kind of the finish line mindset where it's inevitable. I've already accomplished it. Like you got to be a little bit delusional here and say, you know what, I'm on the way, but I already feel like that person today. Because when you can create that like mood, energy, vibration, if we'll go there, of that person you're becoming today, you're going to make better choices. Because when we are that person in our identity, our actions tend to follow suit. And sure enough, we get the result that we already believe we have. It's inevitable. So be it before you have it. Okay. A little bit confusing, maybe. But we all just, I want this result. I want it so bad. But that energy actually repels you from your results. Act like it's already happening for you. It's inevitable. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Be, do, have. There it is. So ultimately, every code points to the same kind of thing we're trying to create here, which is to stop like forcing the behavior and just start becoming the person who does all this stuff. Second nature. in practice. So you see the choice, the pantry is a decision, not a reflex. So maybe you still make the wrong choice. But if you have that little pause, you're not so reactive. Next time, you might make a better choice, stretching that gap. Stay in character. There was a book called The Alter Ego Effect, I believe. Forget the author now, but he basically has a second version of himself who's like this fit person. And he's in his hoodie in the gym and he envisions who he's becoming. And he makes choices like that version of himself. And he's created this whole alter ego. It's a little bit, maybe he needs a psych word, but I see there's some value in that as well. Okay. All right. To summarize, what you're not changing, you're choosing. If you consistently buy the wine and you know the wine leads to the pantry and then complete self-sabotage, maybe we need to choose something differently. Belief, the stories you tell yourself drives the actions and behaviors. Your body normalizes dysfunction, even if it's not a place you rationally want to be. Subconsciously, you keep going back there. So we need to create this new safe space, fitter version of you. Stop celebrating fit like it's a temporary vacation. It's going to be a permanent thing for it to work. The little pause, reactive versus responsive. Just understand the problems never go away. You just get better at handling them. And then be to have. Become the version, and the choices come a lot easier. Alrighty. Hopefully that is helpful. Anything to unpack from what we've shared today? Would love to get a couple insights. And don't be shy.
Hi,
Safe.
hi there. I think
Go
it
ahead,
takes a
Wendy.
while. It takes a while to put that weight on, so it's going to take a while to take it off, and it's less fun taking it off than it was putting it on. But if you calculate, like I lost a lot of weight 4 years ago, it took 4 years for it to build back up slowly. So you can't expect, success and long-term success in like 3 months or 6 months. If it took me 4 years, slowly it was creeping up, creeping up, and so. Yeah, so I'm kind of like China. I mean, for the long game, like I said at one point, you got to kind of, like you said, focus on it, but like you can't kind of just focus on it a month from now. Like you got to
Mm,
kind of visualize what you're going to look like in a year, I
yeah,
think, or
yeah,
whatever timeline you have in your head. But for me, I signed up for a year. So after the year, I'm going to see maybe I can do this on my own and maybe I can't. You might see me back, right? So, but that's my focus is like this year trying to get down to where I want to be and keep it off and then build more muscle without hurting myself.
yeah. Knock on wood. Yeah, people overestimate what they can accomplish in like 3 months. They underestimate what's possible like over a 3 year timeline. Certainly, like it's crazy how much change can happen, but it never happens as fast as we want. And also with fitness, like you can chase off the weight, but it could be the good stuff you're losing if you're doing it too quickly. You could lose as much muscle as body fat if you're dropping 2+ pounds a week, week after week after week, depending on your starting weight, of course. So I'm all about quality over quantity, ensuring you're in a good, healthy place to maintain. And muscle does play a huge role in your metabolism at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm kind of documenting my journey right now with the scale because I want to kind of share the ups and downs. Like my number went up 3 pounds overnight. I know that's not body fat, but if you only rely on the number and where it's going, you will get in your head and self sabotage and all the things we talked about today. You need to really have those beliefs in place in order to navigate the ups and downs. Thanks. Good share, Wendy. Anyone else? Anything unpacked from today? Hey, Sandy, go
Hi.
ahead.
Um, I was talking with Martha on our little walk, and she has this scale, and it gives you all sorts of fancy data that I get obsessed with. So, anyways, Saturday afternoon, I pressed click and bought my Amazon scale. It came in, and one of the questions it asked me was, "Are you an athlete?" And I sat there and go, "Yes, no, yes, no." Well, I clicked yes. So but anyway, so that was just maybe believing that that's where I'm going, even though I sometimes don't, I always feel like I am, but I want to be, and I was. So
Great.
That's
a big
there.
mental hurdle right there. Calling yourself an athlete. Yes. How we self-identify is everything. And it's less likely you're going to go backwards if you say, I'm an athlete now. Because athletes don't gain 60 pounds in a year, right? They do the work, all those good things. But side note, smart scales, be careful with the data because if you're dehydrated, it'll show a different number. I don't read a whole lot into those. Photos, measurements, still the gold standard for me. Even DEXA can be off depending on, whether you go into the scan hydrated or depleted and whatever else. So cool to see. But yeah, if it freaks you out, maybe turn those things off because it'll really mess with you if you think the scale number's bad. Just wait till you get body fat percentage changes overnight. Those are a little scary. All right. Anyone else? Go off the board with today's topic if need be. The floor is yours. We've got a few people hiding their cameras off, so no pressure to engage, but see someone, Danielle. There you are. What's going on? Anything to share, Danielle? Or you just came off camera?
No, I just came off camera because it called me out a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah. That was my goal. Mission accomplished. Awesome. Okay, well, yeah, if that's it for today, I'll get this replay out. Again, the scale is a big piece to this puzzle because I think a lot of people have a strained relationship with it. And knowing that it is one data point we like to track for good reason, but it's not the be all end all. And if you live and die by what it tells you, you're going to get in your head too much. And then you're going to be in the emotional states we don't want you in for success, which is what a lot of today's training is about. So any questions that you don't want to share publicly, absolutely reach out. You know where to find me. Otherwise, we can leave it there unless there's anything else. All good? All righty. We'll wrap up a little early then today. You guys have a good rest of your week. We'll talk soon.